Walter's Sports Bar is a great place for the family to grab a bite to eat before going into the ballpark. $5 kids meals from 4 to 7 p.m. with the purchase of an adult meal. Walter's is located across the street from Nationals Park.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Here comes the 1-0. Swing a line drive up the middle, a base hit into left center field for Nasim Nuñez. House scores, Lyle speeds home, he'll score, and the Nationals lead 2-0. No balls, 2 strikes. Irvin delivers. Curveball, swing and a miss. He got him. Foul tipped into the mid. 3 more curveballs in a row and another strikeout, number 9 for Jake Irvin. He's got 3 strikeouts in the inning.
Yeah, it feels great. You know, we've had really good game plans, and I think that just being able to execute, go out there and stay on the offensive, it's made things.
Bases loaded, no outs. Long set, the 0-2 pitch. In the dirt, gets away from the catcher. Wood trying to score. The throw from Romo will not be made. Wood scores standing up as the ball got away from the catcher, and the Nationals take the lead 3-2. Here's the set. There they go. The pitch. Swinging a ground ball toward the hole, right side. Base hit into right field. Garcia scores. Lyle will come in behind him to score, and over to third is Joey Wiemer. It's a 4 RBI day for Nasim Nuñez, and the Nationals lead it 6-2 here in the 10th.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Rate Field, where the Nats just had yet another extra inning game. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now have played 28 games. 5 of them have been extra inning games, but this latest one was a win, a 6-3 10-inning win at the Chicago White Sox on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series, a game in which the Nats blew a 2-0 8th-inning lead, but scored 4 runs in the top of the 10th. The Nats now are 12-16, including 2 and 3 in extra inning games. And the Nats now are 1 game away from their first off day since April 9th. This run of 17 consecutive days, each with a game, will end on Sunday, assuming that there is no rain out, but a game on Sunday and then the off day on Monday. This, of course, has been a grueling run filled with wild back and forth and lengthy games, but a good win on Saturday to snap a 3-game losing streak. And as big as anything in the win, the work of starting pitcher Jake Irvin. There was a lot to this game for sure, but you take a step back. What Irvin did in this game should not be discounted. 5 2/3 scoreless innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks, probably the best outing by a Nats starting pitcher so far this season. I know that that's not saying much, but Mark, so good to see Jake Irvin be so good.
Yeah, and I think the key here, Al, we had seen at different times so far this month, maybe he would get off to a good start but couldn't finish it. Or maybe he'd get off to a rough start but would look better over the course of the game. This was the first time he put it all together, start to finish, and it was electric. He really had the White Sox eating out of his hand the entire start. And to see him, I think, get better as the game went on, striking guys out and taking advantage of the conditions. We'll get to this, but the shadows here in Chicago, for especially those middle innings of the game, made it really tough for hitters to pick up the spin of the ball. And you saw Irvin and then later on Mitchell Parker take full advantage of that by essentially throwing nothing but breaking balls and striking guys out nonstop as a result of it. So I think it's a huge game for Irvin. The team needed it. He needed it. You hope that it's not just confined to this one game against this particular opponent and that he can take this and run with it. But I think it was really good to see that it is still in there for him. He does have the ability to put together a dominant start, not just a quality start, but a dominant start.
And as we have discussed, this is part of the new approach from Jake Irvin, trying to throw more strikes, not being so caught up and trying to eat up as many innings as possible. But, let me focus more on quality than quantity. And in this game, you got quality. Like we said, 5 2/3 scoreless, 9 strikeouts, no walks. I mean, that right there just is so beautiful. Gave up just 4 hits. They were a double and 3 singles. He threw a ton of strikes, 88 pitches, 62 strikes, just 26 balls. So a strikes to balls ratio of better than 2-1. And you hit on the curveball usage, and you asked manager Blake Butera about this during his post-game session with you guys. But Irvin, who we know has a curveball that he likes to throw, he per StatCast used the curveball more than any other pitch. 32 of the 88 pitches were curveballs, and that mixed with the conditions at Rate Field did some really good things for him.
And that rate kept going up over the course of the game. I'm pretty sure his last 6 pitches were all curveballs, and they were all strikes for the final 2 strikeouts. And he admitted that he was picking up on this idea that, hearing from their own hitters, that they couldn't see the spin on the ball. You had basically the plate in shadows. You had the mound kind of in between shadow and sunlight, and the backdrop, the batter's eye in center field, was in sunlight. And so they could not pick up the spin. And he decided, okay, this is working. I'm going to keep throwing it over and over and over. And you saw the results. They couldn't touch it. And so he finishes with 5 straight strikeouts. One of them, actually, the batter reaches on a passed ball that wasn't his fault. That was Keibert Ruiz. I know he would have loved to have a shot at one more and having the rare 4 strikeout inning in the 6th. He wasn't given that opportunity because Butera came out there and removed him and brought in Mitchell Parker. Now, Parker also struck out the first batter that he faced, so the team got the 4 strikeout inning. But good to see not just the stuff and how effective that was, but that he was able to figure some things out along the way and make adjustments. And that goes to Keibert Ruiz as well, and the coaching staff and everybody, to pick up on something that was working and decide, we're not just going to focus on this. We're just going to throw exclusively this until they prove otherwise. And it was absolutely dominant the way that he finished out the start because of that.
Well, Jake Irvin now is a veteran, right? I mean, this is his age 29 season. 2023 was when we first saw him at the major league level. So he's been pitching at the major league level for a few years now. And, let's be honest, if this was a win now team, there's a decent chance he wouldn't be starting for this team. He was really bad last season, and that he's in this rotation still is a function in large part because of what else is on the team here. So he's being given sort of an extra life here. But I was really happy to see him do well. He did an interview with Alexa Dat after the game on nationals.tv, and Irvin, he looked so happy. He started laughing at one point. I felt good for him because, this has to be tough. He had a horrible 2025 season. You really can't overstate that. Quantifiably, he may have been the worst pitcher in the sport last year. And so to see him have an outing like this, he has been better this season. Hasn't been great, but he has been better. To see him do as he did in this game, it was really a feel-good performance for a guy who I think in a lot of ways needed that.
He takes the losses hard, you can tell, and not just because of how he does, but how the team does. So it wasn't just that he had pitched as well as he did, but the fact the team ultimately won the game. He didn't get the quote-unquote win himself because the bullpen gave up the 2-0 lead. But the fact that they did come back to win the game, and he had such a big contribution to it, I think that matters to him more than anything else. This is a guy who believes that he should be a member of a good rotation in the big leagues. You're correct that in other situations, he may not have gotten this opportunity to come back this year the way things went last season. But I think deep down, he believes he can do this. He's seen himself do it enough over the course of these 3 seasons now that he's been here to believe that he has that in him. He just needs to show it consistently that he can do it. And as I said, avoid the first inning troubles, but also avoid the later inning troubles. You mentioned it. He came into the season with this whole new mindset. I'm just attacking hitters. Doesn't matter how far I go in the game. I'm going to give everything I've got as long as I've got. Well, look what happened. Not just the fact that he didn't walk a batter, but he struck out 9 in the process. So it's funny what just a mindset and a go after them approach can do for you. It can not only allow you to have success, but actually dominate and do so in a way that you're still out there into the 6th inning when maybe the mindset previously of trying to give them innings wouldn't actually lead to more innings out of him.
Irvin stats now, 6 games, all starts, ERA of 4.85, whip of 118. But how about this? 34 strikeouts in 29 and 2/3 innings. His strikeouts per 9 innings now at 10.31, higher than fellow starting pitcher Cade Cavalli's 10.22, 10.31 strikeouts per 9 innings for Jake Irvin. That is drastic improvement from where he had been. That is an excellent strikeouts per 9 innings.
And we talked in spring training about, you'd love to see the big name guys come through for them this year. But one of the key signs of the new administration and whether they were making a positive difference or not is, can they take the guys who maybe had some success up here, but not consistently, and maybe regressed somewhat in the last year or two? Can they get more out of them? And I think Jake Irvin is maybe at the top of that list, and I put Mitchell Parker in that same category. Now, Parker's pitching out of the bullpen now, a little bit different, but he is having some success that he didn't have last year. And certainly Irvin, by upping the strikeout rate, by taking this new approach that he's got going out there and just giving whatever he's got for as long as he's got it. There's a long way to go, but there are signs there that this could be some real progress for him. And I think that's a positive reflection, not just for him, but for the organization as a whole, being able to get the most out of somebody who maybe a year ago looked like a lost cause.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend. The big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
So it's 0-2. Runners lead second and first. Parker fires. Slider struck him out swinging. Mitchell Parker strikes him out on 3 pitches. Murakami comes up empty on the slider. And Mitchell Parker's slider, a big-time pitch for back-to-back 3-pitch strikeouts to end the 7th.
The Nats bullpen in this 6-3 10-inning win at the White Sox on Saturday. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs, 2 earned in 4 and a third innings, as once again, the Nats bullpen was a bit of a problem. Mitchell Parker officially allowed 2 runs in 1 and a third innings. He recorded 3 swinging strikeouts, but he also issued 2 walks and a hit by pitch and gave up a single. Gus Varland officially tossed a scoreless inning, came into the game bottom of the 8th, runners on first and second, no outs. Nats up 2-0. He in the inning retired 3 of the 4 batters he faced, but he on the first pitch that he threw gave up an RBI single by Everson Pereira through the left side of the infield to cut the Nats lead to 2-1. Ciano Perez, he tossed a scoreless bottom of the 9th, despite issuing a leadoff walk and issuing a 2-out walk. 22 pitches, a mere 11 strikes versus 11 balls, but it was a scoreless bottom of the 9th. Perez got a big strikeout, and it was Brad Lord who was brought into the game to close it out, and he did close the game out. Bottom of the 10th, allowed an unearned run and retiring 3 of the 4 batters he faced. What'd you think about Lord being summoned to pitch that bottom of the 10th?
You know, the 4-run lead helped. Now, I mean, he was already warming up before they extended the lead, so I think he was going to come in regardless. But I think that was a case of Blake Butera saying, I need a guy who I can put out there for multiple innings. So I think he was probably trying to stay away from Clayton Beeter in this one. Not that Beeter couldn't have come in and pitched one inning, but I think Butera, realizing extra innings, is just saying to himself, let me put the long man out there, and he's going to go probably as long as this game goes, and I'm not going to burn up anybody else over the course of the game. So I know the numbers for the bullpen as a whole maybe didn't look great in this one, but I thought it was a positive performance from them. Parker, as I said, came in to replace Irvin, got the strikeout to complete the 4-strikeout inning, only the second 4-strikeout inning in Nationals history. The previous one, I don't remember this one. John Rauch back in 2006, 1 day off. It happened on April 26th of 2006. We're 1 day away from it being the 20th anniversary of that. How about that? So Parker did that. He comes back and has a scoreless 7th. Now, he got into trouble in the 8th. Leadoff walk, then a hit by pitch, and he's out of there. And then Gus Varland allows both runners to score. The 3 runs that the White Sox scored in this game were all scored by guys who reached base via something other than a hit. Okay, it was a walk, a hit batter, and then the automatic runner in the 10th. So it was actually, in my mind, a pretty good job by the Nationals pitching staff, not just Irvin, but the relievers as well. They weren't giving up hits. The only times they were really burned in this one was when they gave free passes, and that's just the walk and the hit by pitch by Parker to open the 8th. But I thought overall he was good, and I thought the rest of the guys did a pretty good job, all things considered. The White Sox certainly didn't beat them offensively. It was only the Nationals pitching staff maybe handing the White Sox a couple of those runs.
John Rauch, who actually was drafted by the Chicago White Sox, 6'11". For those unfamiliar with the work of John Rauch, he is the tallest pitcher the Nats have had since the franchise moved here, right? Nobody's come close to that, have they?
No, and he was, for a while, the tallest pitcher in Major League history. I think there was a 7-footer that surpassed him one of those years since then. Yeah, he was a huge physical presence who didn't pitch necessarily like you would expect somebody that big. He was not a hard thrower, but he was an effective reliever for them for several years, teaming up with Chad Cordero for some of that time to be the setup man and eventually even the closer for a little bit. Yeah, that's right, though. I forgot he was drafted by the White Sox, then wound up going to the Expos and then moving along with the team to D.C.
Odd game offensively for the Nats in this 6-3-10 inning win at the White Sox on Saturday. So the Nats had just 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles. The Nats struck out 15 times, but the Nats drew a whopping 10 walks and went 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The Nats struggled against the White Sox starting pitcher Noah Schultz. He's a guy who Chicago took with the number 26 overall pick in the 2022 MLB first-year player draft out of a high school in Illinois. This was just his 3rd career MLB regular season game and start, and he was good. 2 runs, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, though he did issue 4 walks. And the rate at which the Nats are drawing walks really is something right now. I actually talked about this a few episodes ago. The Associated Press on Thursday morning had an interesting piece on this, how the walk rate across MLB has shot up. And the theory is that ABS has a lot to do with that. You know, who knows if that's true? And of course, we'll see as the season goes on if the walk rate stays high. But you know, the Nats are not known for drawing walks, and that they are drawing walks at the rate at which the team is drawing walks. I mean, it really stands out. You know, multiple double-digit walk games here in recent days. It just really is staggering. But anyway, 10 walks in this game. And the offensive hero for the Nats, I said this was an odd game for the team offensively. The offensive hero, Nasim Nuñez. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 8 batter, 2 for 4, 2 2-run singles and a walk. Also had a stolen base. But how about Nuñez in this game? 2-run 4th, a 2-out, 2-run single into left center for a 2-0 Nats lead. And in a 4-run 10th for the Nats, Nuñez had the big blow, a 2-out, full count, 2-run single through the right side of the infield for a 6-2 Nats lead. Now, that 4-run 10th was something because you had the Nats getting on base and scoring and doing damage in all kinds of ways. But eventually, you got sort of a proper scoring of a run. In this case, a proper scoring of multiple runs with Nuñez with the 2-run single coming right after a Joey Wiemer bases loaded walk, and also James Wood earlier in the inning scoring on a wild pitch.
Yeah, look, it's pretty much been all week that they have struggled with runners in scoring position. Even the games they've won, even when they have put up big numbers, it's often been in spite of the fact that they were stranding a ton of runners in scoring position. And so for them to finally break that a little bit here, and for it to be Nuñez, of all people, to do it, arguably the weakest offensive player on the team, that was very nice to see. And, you know, that meant a lot to Nasim Nuñez. Look, he is a tremendous defensive infielder. He's an elite base runner. He makes positive contributions to this team, even when he has an OPS that starts with a 5, which I think is what it was coming into this game. And yet, if he can do anything like he did in this game and just come through a little bit for them at the plate with twice delivering 2-out, 2-run singles, it makes him all the more valuable. He doesn't have to be an elite hitter to be a really big, productive player for this team. The other parts of his game are so good. He just needs to come through in situations where they need it from him. And this game was a perfect example of that, delivering 2 really big hits when they absolutely needed both of those.
So the OPS now is at 505. I mean, it really is puny. And, it seems like it should be higher because, as we have discussed, it feels like Nuñez has contributed offensively. Like, it feels like we've talked about him a good amount offensively in terms of, Nuñez had a hit, Nuñez drew a walk, Nuñez did good things on the base paths. But yeah, I mean, it's ugly, his batting numbers. And, this is a Michael A. Taylor, Danny Espinosa, Jacob Young conversation where you're like, if he can just hit a little bit, this is a guy who could really be valuable for you. But when you're hitting to the tune of a 505 OPS, it's just so tough. So you'd love to see him get that thing higher. And really, he's got to get that. It's got to be in the 600s at least. When you're in the 500s, man, that is tough. But good to see him do this. It was a strange game. So just to go back to the walks for a second, the Nats for all of last regular season had 443 walks. The Nats over just 28 games here have 108 walks. So nearly a quarter of the walk total for all of last season has been achieved in just 28 games this season. That is not something anyone anticipated. When we talk about like the improved offense, I think the uptick in walks is, if not the biggest factor, it's certainly a major factor. And it's a factor that I don't know that anyone really saw coming.
I think it's the number one difference so far. And I include not just walks, but just plate discipline in general. How often last year did we see guys making outs on the first pitch? Did we see them falling behind 0-2 all the time and giving other teams' pitchers really quick innings? Starting pitchers who'd get to the 7th inning and they're still with a pitch count in the 70s. You're just not seeing that happen, at least so far this year. I think the approach has been tremendously better. I think it is making a big difference. It's not just James Wood. C.J. Abrams has been better. Brady House has been better. Dalen Lyle has been good. Nuñez, for his offensive flaws, does have a good eye. That makes a difference. Some of the role players have done it as well. So, yeah, I think it's actually huge. I think more even than the home runs they're hitting, the plate discipline leading to longer at-bats, longer innings, knocking starting pitchers out earlier. I think that all has a cumulative effect and is making a big difference. And, what you were saying the other day about the walks being up and maybe tied to ABS, I believe that 100%, because if you think about it, most umpires, especially in recent years, the last 10, 20 years, were known for having a strike zone that's wider than the actual plate itself. And those calls are no longer strikes. Now, if it just nicks a tiny part of the outer edge of the plate, as we've seen, it's going to be a strike. But all those pitches that are, slightly off, or a ball or two, even a few inches off the plate, if they're getting called strikes, hitters are challenging them, and that's overturning them. And I absolutely believe that the increase in walks across baseball, that ABS has a huge part to do with that.
That's, by the way, for now, 14 position players versus 12 pitchers. Andres Chaparro on Saturday morning was recalled from AAA Rochester. And he, for this game on Saturday, was not only the Nats starting first baseman, he was the team's number 3 batter. Only the 2026 Nats have as their number 3 batter a guy who the team just called up from AAA. But this is the new normal for this team with this process, with this roster.
And remember, they demoted him after he was their number 2 batter, I think in 2 of the season's first 3 games, and he did well. It was like 2 for 6 with a double. This was specifically a matchup thing with Noah Schultz. They felt like Chaparro matched up extremely well with Schultz, and that's why they wanted him up here and in the lineup and in a prominent spot. Now, he didn't have success. He hit a ball to the warning track in the first inning and then grounded out a couple times before he was replaced by Luis Garcia. So maybe didn't have the impact they were hoping for, but that was the intention. This was specifically about this game At this point, as we're recording this, he's still on the roster. I don't think they'll stick with 14 position players for too long, but they probably got through this okay to get by with the bullpen as is, but eventually they're going to need to add another reliever, and they're kind of running out of arms that we haven't already seen this year. So I would imagine we're going to get to a point here where there are going to be relievers called up who we've already seen in one previous stint so far this year.
It's like a comedian who's already told us all of his jokes, and you're like, I've heard that already, but that's kind of where the Nats are with the relief pitchers right now. It's like, we've seen that guy already. Well, yeah, but what do you want me to do? It's only April, and we still have a long way to go here.
No new material.
Yeah, exactly. Need new material.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Weimer windmills the bat around and around. Oh, he cocks it behind his ear. The set for Leisure. 3-2 the count. The runners go. Here it comes. Low ball 4. Weimer tosses the bat away. Meade will jog in and score. And the Nationals take a 4-2 lead here in the 10th inning.
Last game before the off day on Monday. It is game 3 of this series at the White Sox. 2:10 first pitch on Sunday afternoon. And the guy who has been the Nats ace so far, Foster Griffin, will get the start. Could it be that we get back-to-back well-pitched games by Nats starting pitchers to conclude this series? Jake Irvin, outstanding on Saturday. We'll see what Foster Griffin gives us on Sunday afternoon.
That would be lovely. And, of course, you had a couple days ago Cade Cavalli with his best start against the Braves. This could turn into a very nice turn through the rotation. Now, I think it's a good matchup for Griffin. The White Sox, not all that intimidating of an offensive team, I think, as we've seen, beyond Murakami, the huge power hitter they've acquired. They drew 35,000 in this game. They announced it was their largest April crowd for a non-home opener since I think it was 2007. Murakami is capturing the attention of the south side of Chicago, and for good reason. He's a real force up there, but that's a lefty-on-lefty matchup. I'm guessing, and we'll have to look into this going into Sunday, I'm guessing that he's faced Griffin before in Japan. And so for the first time since he's come back, maybe Griffin doesn't have the advantage of unfamiliarity. I'll be interested to hear about whatever their history was, if we can figure it out and talk to Griffin after the game on Sunday. But I do think it's a good matchup for him in general. It would be really nice to see him come through with another good start. And if the Nats can win that game, big if, but if they can, this 17-game stretch that we've been talking about for so long with no off days, they would come out of that 9-8. I think all things considered, everybody would be thrilled if that was the end result of that, with all the roster changes and extra inning games and lack of off days. Even at 8-9, you feel all right about it. 9-8, I think you feel really good about the way they came through this stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not right to do what I'm about to say, but the Nats had that losing streak very early on, right? It was a 5-game losing streak. If you just take that out, the team's having a pretty good season. Okay, now I know you can play this game with every team. I understand that. But if you just take out that 5-game losing streak for games played March 31st through April 5th, you're talking about the record being 12-11, and all things considered, like, you're talking about things going not just kind of well, but actually really well. Even with the record as is, I'd still say things are actually going pretty well, all things considered here. But save for that losing streak, the Nats actually have been, decent here.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step farther. It's not as simple as just saying, like, oh, if not for that losing streak. Think about how many of those losses, I think it was at least 3 of them, were direct result of a bullpen blow up at the end. Like, games they led late, and if they just hold on, then they win those games. So, a good number of the Nats' losses this season have been competitive games that they led late, and it was only because of their bullpen that they lost it. So, yes, there is a lot of encouraging stuff. And I think what makes the losses more frustrating than maybe they've been in recent years is because this realization of they're probably better than we thought they would be. And they have actually put themselves in a position to play very competitive baseball and hover around, if not over the 500 mark, if they just did a couple little things better, most notably the bullpen, but the base running mistakes and things like that. It doesn't feel like they're that far off from being a very competitive team. And so when they do lose a game that feels like a game they should have won, I think it hurts more now than it did in the past. I think the expectation bar has been raised a little bit, and that's a good sign in the bigger picture.
Well, what's going to be so interesting is there a market correction with the offense? Does it regress to the mean? Does it come crashing back down to earth? Or is this what the offense truly is? You know, it's one thing to be good offensively over 30, 35 games. It's another thing to do well over the 162. And I think that might be the single biggest question right now regarding this team this season. How legitimate is this offense, which overall has performed at such a high level? Because if the offense is legit, if we do see this for most, if not all of the season, then yeah, I think the conversation very much changes because you're talking about one of the best offenses in MLB here so far. All right, we have a shout out to deliver. A happy birthday, Charlie, from your parents, Ken and Kathy. Texting during Nats games keeps the family connected despite the out-of-town distance. Charlie listens to the podcast every morning on his commute as he is the town manager just outside of Charlottesville. His wife and 2 little girls, of both of whom are Nats fans, are the light of his life. Have a great day, Charlie. Yes, sir. Happy birthday, Charlie. And thank you very much for that, Ken and Kathy. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. We always love hearing from you. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. And you can email the show, including if you would like for a shout out to be delivered for you, for someone who you care about. Contact the man who runs the show, Tim Shovers. The email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Lord coming set. The runner on the move, the pitch. Swinging a ground ball toward short. Nuñez has it. Appropriately, Nasim Nuñez throws on to first to end the ball game. Nationals even the series with a 6-3 win in 10 innings. Nasim Nuñez drives in 4 of the Nationals' 6. As the Nationals scored 4 big runs at the top of the 10th. They score a 6-3 win over the White Sox and will look to win the series tomorrow.